Hi there, 6 months ago I was on my honeymoon and Amazon announced the brand new Kindle Paperwhite. Now for most people this would not be a big deal, but for me as a YouTuber who makes videos about Kindles, this turned out to be a very big deal, the hottest topic of the year in the world of Kindles. I ordered one right away and a few weeks later I got my hands on one and I made a very detailed review of it. Now if you're interested in learning about the Kindle Paperwhite and all the features it has to offer, I strongly encourage you to watch that review video I made 6 months ago. Today though I want to talk about 3 things I've realized about the Kindle Paperwhite that I've only learned in the past 6 months of using it. Those 3 things are future-proofing, slowness, and also ergonomics. I want to spend a bit of time telling you about those topics that I've only learned after using this device every single week for 6 months. Now the first topic I want to talk about is future-proofing. Whenever a new device comes out, whether it's a new iPhone or a new Kindle, obviously the newest device will be future-proof for at least a few years. However, with Amazon Kindle, I did not expect them to showcase this so quickly with the Kindle Paperwhite. Almost immediately after shipping this device, the new software update came out with page turn animations. Now, page turn animations were only made available to the Kindle Paperwhite. Every other Kindle in the lineup got a software update, but they omitted that one feature. This is a big deal because this is a clear sign that new software updates like this will only work on the newest Kindle. This is because the display on this Kindle is a newer technology, so every other Kindle that they've been making is already outdated from day one. That future-proofing came in handy very quickly right after launch of the Kindle Paperwhite. The second more obvious future-proofing on this Kindle is the USB-C connector. Now I have to say I already knew this at the time, but I didn't expect it to be such a big deal as it is today. When I have USB-C, I can charge all my devices with one cable, and my Kindle has never died on me once because every time I plug in my laptop, I just unplug my laptop and plug in my Kindle using the same cable. It's not any extra thing I have to do, it's just always there available to me. I can plug it in whenever I want. Before my Kindle Paperwhite, I would always have to charge my Oasis every other week, and that is because the battery would get so low that the warning would start coming up, the battery was low. With my Paperwhite, I never had that warning come up. I just charge it proactively instead of reactively. Now the next topic I want to talk about regarding the Paperwhite 6 months later is slowness. Now when I first got my Paperwhite, this was the last thing I expected because in my original review, I was raving about the speed of this device, how big of an improvement it was from the previous generation. I stand by that. The last Paperwhite was so slow. This one is a huge improvement, but I have noticed some lagginess since buying this. It's really hard for me to catch this on camera, but oftentimes while using the Kindle, I'm turning pages and the device just won't respond. I have to tap on the screen several times, and I really hate that feeling because my Oasis never had any reliability issues. It would always work. And especially on my Kindle Paperwhite, I have a separate one that I use every morning for my prayers, and I use a special PDF document on that device, and that one specifically is always freezing up on me. I have to tap on that screen all the time, and sometimes I have to restart the Kindle to get it to work. It's just so frustrating. It's the last thing you want to be doing when reading a good book. Now the good thing about this is all software related, and Amazon can fix this with future software updates. The one thing I love about Amazon is the frequency of their updates. Every few months, a new update is coming out with new features and new optimizations, and I've already seen some fixes for the Kindle Paperwhite. There were some issues with the ambient light sensor before and the warm light temperature control. They fixed that right away when the Kindle launched, so I have no doubt they'll continue to improve the experience, but in 6 months time, I'm still seeing a lot of random issues. The next topic I want to talk about now is actually holding this Kindle Paperwhite. On the last Kindle Paperwhite, there were these giant bezels around the whole device, and that made it very annoying to look at because it looked like an ancient piece of tech, but they reduced the bezel size on the new Kindle Paperwhite, and I love the way it looks, but functionally speaking, it makes using this device much harder. I can no longer put my finger properly on the right or left side of the device. The bezel is too small. This is a weird situation because sometimes I can hold it just fine, but other times I find myself just barely touching the screen and the pages will start turning by themselves, and I often have to go back several pages and find my place again. It ends up being a huge interruption in my reading workflow. This happens every once in a while. It's not a very common thing, but it's definitely something I've had happen to me. I really love my Oasis that has more ergonomics built in. It's just so much easier to hold that device because they made it with that hump on the side. The Paperwhite has no ergonomics whatsoever. I hope they make a new Kindle Paperwhite with some added features like that, because you hold this device so much when reading a good book. You can be reading for a half hour sometimes, and that could really mess up your hand if you aren't holding it properly. Now, those are the three main things I wanted to talk about, but there's one bonus tip that I want to mention that I realized over the past 6 months. It has to do with the options available when buying your Kindle. When you buy your Kindle Paperwhite, you have the option of the baseline Kindle as well as a signature edition. Now, I can confidently say the signature edition is not worth it. I have both models. In the SE model, it just does not make any difference in my life. The wireless charging is kind of cool, but again, USB-C more than makes up for it. Save your money. Don't spend that money on the signature edition. One thing I learned afterwards I didn't know about when I first bought my Kindle is the kids edition. That is something you should spend your money on. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the kids model is actually the best Kindle you can buy right now. I have a whole video that talks about this in detail. Link for that on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.